I remember one time I was in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and I went to a social. And then at one point, this lady came and she asked me, "Hey, are you allowed to dance with me?" And I was like in shock.
One of the main arguments against paying dancers to social dance is that they will lose the desire to social dance, or that they will social dance for obligation.
In festivals, there is a certain issue with the expectation that the artists are there to dance all night.
This need to be at the social with the body tired that would otherwise go to rest. That's when the obligation kicks in. And that's when sometimes I go to the social, we're like, I gotta be here.
5 days of work, 4 hours paid. Would anybody do that in your right mind?
In nonviolent communication, they said that the word should is the most violent word in the English language. You are hiring people to social dance disguised as teaching.
Should artists be paid for social dancing? Is it a service, an obligation, or a passion? This is a hot topic that resurfaces every year, but can we find a clear answer? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In this episode, we are tackling the disconnect between what artists are paid for and what they are expected to deliver. We'll discuss the intense demands on artists and explore why the current expectations for free social dancing can generate resentment for some professionals. It's time to seek clarity and a solution that benefits both attendees and artists. So, let's go! Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name is Alisson Sanji, and today we have our amazing and beautiful co-host once again, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody, and welcome back.
In today's episode, we are going to approach a hot topic that has resurfaced in the interwebs of social media, which is to talk about the fact that some people do believe that artists may or should be paid to social dance, and other people don't believe that there is a place for that at all. What is right? What is wrong? What should we do in this topic? I'll be very clear about this, guys. This is not a new topic whatsoever. This is a topic that I remember in my first few years of teaching being brought up constantly for multiple reasons that we're going to bring later in the episode. But let's just start with this, Gui. What do you think about this? Does it make you feel any type of way? Right, wrong, positive, negative?
Oh, man. That's a very interesting topic. I have lots of opinions about it, especially because of my history as a social dancer. I would say I don't see a problem with it. I'm going to say right away that I don't see a problem with it, depending on how it's done. I don't think the matter of paying a teacher to social dance, I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's something that we should avoid. Not necessarily, depending on how it's done. Like everything, we have several pros and several cons related to this topic. Considering the current state of affairs in the partner dance, social dance world, I can only speak for Brazilian Zouk at the moment. However, I listen what the people that I know that belongs to the bachata, to the salsa world, to the tango world. I hear some of the things they share with me about the same topic. There are some variations, of course, because of the culture attached to each form of social dancing. But in the end, the concerns and the arguments for paying a teacher to social dance and the arguments against paying a teacher to social dancing are pretty similar. So I would say right now, right away, that I don't see an issue with it, depending on how we approach it, depending on how we do it. And what about you, Aris?
Well, for me, I think I want to clarify that there are different ways to approach this, right? So, for example, bringing back to Brazil, we have contract dancers. That's kind of how we call it, right? Where some teachers or very experienced dancers or very influential dancers in the social scene, they are paid by a certain lead or by a certain follow to dance with them, either the whole social or part of the social, which is something that I discovered later when I started traveling, that it's common in other areas in the world. I remember one time I was in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and I went to a social club. There was a social happening in this hotel with live band and all of the things. It was super fun. And I was asking people to dance. And then at one point, this lady came to me and she asked me, "Hey, are you allowed to dance with me?" And I was like in shock. I'm like, what is going on? Yes, let's have a dance. So I danced with this person. And then afterwards, I asked my friend, "Hey, why did this person ask me if I'm allowed?" And she said, "Oh, Alison, I forgot to tell you. You see, most of the people here that are dancing, they're getting paid to dance with their client because it's common, it's normal." Yes, granted, majority were followers asking leader teachers to dance with them. So yes, it's not equal, okay? But you got to understand, some countries, some areas in the world, there's not this balance between leaders and followers. Some communities are very heavy on followers, much, much heavier than what we see in Europe or what we see in North America or even in Brazil. So there's that way to pay for a social dance when you hire somebody for an hour or for the whole social. And then there are things that I've heard from other communities where they sell tokens, where you can exchange a token for a social dance. I'm not sure if that exists in Brazil or multiple places, but I've heard of that being a thing as well. Whatever the reason is, that exists. And Gui, you might say that in Brazil there is, right?
Yes, we call it Baile de Ficha. So this token...
How does that work?
Is exactly that. The person gets to the social and they buy a certain amount of tokens. And each one of them is one dance. So there are several people there available to dance. And like Alison said, the vast majority are leaders who are available to dance. And the vast majority of people that look for the service or used to look for the service in my time were the older ladies. And they would go buy several of these tokens. And then each dance you have with them, they give you one token. At the end of the night, you go and you exchange that token for a certain amount of money. So each token was a small amount. So I remember for us to do like 150 reais, I think, or something around that, we needed to have danced almost every song of the night. If we danced every single song of the night, we would make between 150 and 200 reais if we just got one token per dance, per song. Because sometimes the ladies really liked you and you dance one song with them and they'll give you like 3-4 tokens. Because it was much more common, you dance one song and you change partners. So it was easy to keep track. It's one song, each partner. And then because several of the guys dancing there, that was sometimes one of their main sources of income. They were there to dance the whole night. Yeah. So that was their work. And that's something really interesting because one of the main arguments against paying dancers to social dance is that they will lose the desire to social dance or that they will social dance for obligation. And I met several of these boys back then. I was one of them for a little while. And then I realized that this was not for me. It was normally in Rio, was on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, I would go to Copacabana after work. You know, it was like a late social. And dance there and need to go back. But it was a Wednesday, Thursday, I needed to go to work again. So it was too much, so it was not for me. But for a lot of the boys, it was an important source of income. And I connected with several of them. And of course, we always want to know if they are doing this with joy or if they are just going because they need to go. And some of them were doing because they needed to or because it was one source of income that they found. But there were others that liked it. There were others that really enjoyed doing it, you know? So this is something that I find important to share, because even though they were doing it for the money, or they started doing it for the money, or they ended up doing it for the money, they still enjoyed dancing. They liked dancing. They created a relationship with the ladies that used to be regulars in these socials. And you would see them interacting, and you would see that they became friends. So it was a service that they were providing. And it was a service related to partner dancing, which ideally is something that you don't need to pay to receive. Né? That's in the ideal world. However, in that circumstance, the ladies found that that was the place that they would for sure get a dance. So the certainty of dancing for them was more important to whether or not the person who was dancing with them was dancing with them because they wanted to. And that's something really important to consider, guys. For a big number of people in other countries and in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, to be more specific, because that's the experience that I had, they made an assessment and they realized it's more important for me to social dance, to be outside, to see people, to move my body, to connect with someone. That's more important than whether or not that person dance with me really wants to dance with me, you know? So that's really important, I think, and I think really beautiful to consider as well, the reason why someone is at the social. For these ladies, I just want to dance, you know? And I think it's important for us to understand and respect that.
Absolutely. So summarizing what we've talked about so far, there are the contract dancers that dance for multiple hours with one person, or maybe two people hire that dancer and they share. There are the token dancers that they're being paid through tokens by the amount of dances that they have. And then there's the other idea that has surfaced with paying like a donation base, or paying with like a part of your entrance fee of the party to be towards that thing. Then I want to now pivot to the reality that we live in. For example, as teachers in a festival, or teachers that are local, or teachers traveling for weekenders. More specifically to festivals, because I think that is where the biggest issue is, from the attendee's perspective and from the artist's perspective. So let me talk from the artist's perspective first. Okay, so paint the picture. You're being hired and taken away from home for 5 days. Oh, the event is only 3 days. Yes, but there's the travel day. And a lot of the times that travel day, you can't do much about your life. You're traveling. You're going through airports, you're doing connections, or you're going to another country. So 5 days out of your home, and you're teaching for 4 hours over those 5 days. And you're only getting paid for those 4 hours. Let's say somebody makes $250 an hour, 250 euros, whatever currency you want to put this. That's 1,000 for 5 days of work, okay? When they could be home and get that same amount over 1 day. Sleep in their bed, sleep 8 hours a night, eat their own food, and be with their family if they have one, or be with their friends, okay? Or just be alone. Sometimes that's all you need. So then, in festivals, there is a certain issue with the expectation that the artists are there to dance all night. I think from the artist's perspective, I can speak for myself, and I think Gui would agree, we love to social dance. And as long as we're not extremely tired or in pain, we will be there, we'll be social dancing with no expectations. But as we have seen over the last few years, especially since after the pandemic, there's been a change in the community that some dancers, they are teaching at events, but they are dancers, okay? They love to dance, they love to train, they love to create. Did they start traveling the world and became a teacher because they wanted to become a teacher? No. A lot of them do it because they love to dance and they're great at doing that one thing, dancing. Now, when you look at that, that's not a social dancer by love. that is a dancer by love, somebody who loves to express their art. Social dancing may not be their passion. Other dancers became famous and became a teacher because they were social dancers. And that is a different path. And for myself and for Gui, we were social dancers and bolsistas for so many years before we even tapped into teaching, before we even tapped into doing a demo or having people looking at us. So there's different types of motivations. I am not saying one right and one is wrong. All I'm trying to paint the picture here for you guys is that we do have different types of artists. We've always had, but I think it's more obvious nowadays. Okay. Sidetracking a little bit. Some of you may be familiar with RuPaul's Drag Race, which is a show that I love and I'm a super fan since the first season. There's been a lot of discussion on that talent show. For those of you who don't know, it's a talent show for drag queens. Okay, let's put into picture talent show for supermodels, talent show for dancers. A lot of these people, just like in our community, they came from the ground up. But others, they are the new generation. They came from social media. So they don't have the skills from the ground up of being a bolsista, being a social dancer, being all of this for many years and teaching beginner's class night after night for years before they got to being famous and traveling the world. And that is okay. There is a space for that. Now, whether those people want to be at the social every night, social dancing with everybody for free or not, that is a point that we want to discuss. Whether we that came from social dancing would like to maybe receive something as a compensation, as a gift for being at a social and dancing either early, in the middle of the night, or late, that's what we want to discuss here. For example, talking about the token, right? I was discussing with some friends and I thought about some ideas because I'm always thinking about charity or thinking about the community on how we could do this in a way that hopefully can be productive. So if we were to paint a picture where paying for dancing becomes the norm or becomes something that is acceptable by most people in the community, I see that this can be done in a positive way. So let's say we do 1 hour of the social. People can buy a token to get a dance with somebody. It can be a teacher, it can be a guest, it can be somebody in the social. And that token can be donated either to charity. So whatever that person paid, the money goes to charity. Or if it's an event that is trying to embrace the community and be more inclusive, that money can be towards subsidizing full passes for people in the community that cannot pay for the event. Or to buy food for the volunteers. Or to provide something back to the community. So in that case, I see as something like, you know what? I'll be happy to give my 1 hour and dance with as many people as possible and get the tokens. And then those tokens, I know that will not come for me. It's okay. But it will go towards something back to the community. That's one thing. The other thing, like you said, back in our days, we did this kind of things because it was our source of income. For some, it was supplementary. For some, it was the only income. Because the competition in Brazil to become a teacher is huge. So some of these people in Brazil, they are teacher level, but they don't have the opportunity to teach. So what do? They go to socials and they get paid to social dance. Okay. And that is a reality that I do see happening outside of Brazil. There are so many amazing, beautiful dancers that dedicate their lives to social dancing across the globe that work 2 jobs, work however they can, and they sleep in friends' place and all of that just to afford the passion. So wouldn't it be nice if those people could also get something out of their social dancing? Now, I don't necessarily like the idea of if I don't get paid, I'm not going to the party. Personally, that's not for me. But, and I'm going to call the shot here, I see that becoming something that will be normal in the future. I just see that because I already see that in other communities. There are other dance communities or arts communities that the talent that came to teach and came to perform, they don't go to socialize. They don't go to the party. They came to teach. They came to perform. Back to the hotel, beautiful night of sleep. Tomorrow, they teach, they perform again. So I see that there is a space for that level as well. Okay, so with this conversation here, Gui and I, we really just want to open the mind of how we see this instead of just seeing it from a personal side of like, if I ever have to pay for a social dance or if I ever get paid for a social dance, I think it's wrong. Well, like I mentioned with my examples, I think there is a positive way for either, whether you're a social dancer receiving the dance or whether you're a talent, an artist, providing that service. Because in the end of the day, this is a service industry, okay? Service industry anywhere in the world, you have to pay something to get something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a very good point. We are providing a service, right? And one of the most important things I think to keep in mind is that the service that we are paid to provide, and speaking as a teacher now, is the class. So we are explicitly paid to provide the service of teaching a dance class. With teaching a dance class come all these other expectations, and that includes social dancing. So on paper, we are paid to teach the class. But on the expectation side, we are expected to social dance. We're expected to do the teacher presentation. We're expected to dress in a certain way in the theme of the party. So there are all these other expectations attached to what you're being actually paid for. So there is a part of me that thinks that if we bring more clarity, if we bring more, like we are being explicitly paid for more than teaching, I think it brings a peace of mind, my people. I don't think you can like understand the peace of mind that I think that that would bring, because several artists, several teachers, they struggle with the idea that they are being paid for this thing while having all these other expectations attached to it, you know? So we might think that by paying them to social dance, they might lose like this spontaneous joy of social dancing. I think it would be the reverse, actually. I think if you make explicit something that is implicit, I think that this person will dance with more desire to dance, because there is an incentive to do something that they already are doing, but they are already doing without the full desire to do, without being paid. They're already dancing by obligation, you know? And I'm not talking about everybody here. Yeah, I'm talking about people that I know, people that I have talked to. Because like Alison said, Alison, I think that was a very good point. Some of those who are teaching at the moment, they are dancers, artists that came into the role of teaching, and with the teaching comes the social dancing. And there are social dancers, hardcore social dancers, that came to the role of teaching. So for one group, the social dancing aspect comes more easily than for the other group. So I was a bolsista in Jaime for 6 years, and then I was a bolsista in other place for 2 more years, then 2 more years. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was a bolsista for around 10 years until I started paying for classes. That I paid for classes 2 years. And in all this time, I was a dance escort. I danced with the same lady for 6 years. Yeah, and I would dance with all these other ladies from time to time, and would go to the socials where most of the people in that social, like Alison said, were hired by someone to dance with them. And there was a relationship between the people that's, like we said, with the tokens. The same happens when you are hired by the same person for a very long time. So imagine, I danced 6 years with the same person. We know a lot about each other's lives. We talked a lot. The thing is that for a long time, I was providing a service. The service was social dancing. And because I was providing a service, it doesn't mean that I didn't want to be there dancing with her. On the contrary, sometimes I would look forward to dance with her. until we got to the point that we take the money out of the transaction. I started dancing with her because I wanted to, in the sense that you don't need to pay me anymore. And I still want to dance with you. And we kept going out to dance on Fridays, going to our tango social in Lapa, So I think this relationship that is done with the payment to the lack of desire to dance or the dancing by obligation, it simplifies something that is actually really complex. The reasons why somebody is doing what they're doing, the reasons why somebody is dancing. I think because of my long history as a social dancer before becoming a teacher, the environment of the social has a very particular meaning to me. So I'm able to switch gears in my brain and social dance without the thinking that I have to until I'm tired. If I'm really tired, I thought the whole day and the social starting at 10 or at 11 and comes this thing, I need to be at the social. This need to be at the social with the body tired that would otherwise go to rest. That's when the obligation kicks in. And that's when sometimes I go to the social like, I gotta be here. So more than I need to be here or I'm willing to be here versus I want to be here. So for the want to be here is there when I'm rested, when I'm fed, when all these things are good, I really want to social dance. It's no obligation whatsoever. But when the body is tired, it's a very different story. So everything is malleable. It has so many different aspects for us to keep in mind, to keep into consideration. So I think, Alisson, this relationship of, now because we have to pay, we are losing the nature of the social dance. People shouldn't be paid to social dance. I think it's simplistic. I think it's a simplistic point of view that doesn't consider the high complexity that exists in this field of ours.
Yeah, and talking as an organizer now. Okay, so I think so far I've organized 15, 16 festivals. And I see the value of hiring somebody just to teach or hiring somebody just to social dance. There are teachers that I would happily pay and tell them, hey guys, this is how much is your class? Okay, cool. I'm just going to pay for your class. No socials. Don't worry about it. If you want to show up, sure. But there's no expectations for the social at all. And then other artists that are like, hey, Alisson, I want to come and teach and social dance. I'll be there every night. And I'm like, okay, what's your fee? Oh, teaching fee is this. Social dancing is this. Cool. I'll pay for both because I know they will do it. I know that they love to social dance and they always bring a huge value for the attendees. Once again, guys, I'm talking as an organizer because this is business. Okay? People paid for a full pass. They want certain services. They have certain expectations. So as an organizer, I'm trying to meet those expectations. And then, yes, I would probably either pay or comp and give free passes to a few dancers and go like, hey, I'll give you a free pass or I'll give you this much money and your task is 2 hours every night. You go social dance with as many people as possible, especially those who are not dancing with anybody else.
Yes.
If you see somebody who's been sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes, go there and ask that person. If somebody asks you for a dance and you see that they've been dancing already, say, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask that other person first because they haven't been dancing for a while. This is what I want to do, or this is my job tonight, or for the next hour, whatever there is. So there are ways that we can actually see this as a benefit to the attendees and to the community instead of thinking that this is a cash grab from the artist's perspective. Oh, the artists just want to make some more money. Oh, the artists just want all the money in the world. Okay, let's backtrack here.
Please.
5 days of work, 4 hours paid. Would anybody with a professional career of being self-employed and having no guarantees that if you break a foot, you're going to get paid or you're going to get sick leave if you're sick, would you do that in your right mind? I think dancers are the only crazy people who do that. I do that because I love it. And, I know I'm the crazy one. But just put yourselves in that shoe. And the other thing that I want to mention here is that I've had this conversation with other people and they're like, well, but if they're only teaching like 1 hour a day, why are they so tired? Shouldn't they just be resting for the rest of the day and just, social dancing all night? I'm like, sure. But remember, 5 days that they could be getting paid at home, they're not. So what are they doing? Teaching private lessons. They're trying their best to complement their income because festivals don't make money. Festivals don't have a lot of money to throw around. So most of the times, teachers do charge a lower or a reasonable fee, like counting on some private lessons to supplement that value and go like, okay, the event is going to give me this much and I'm going to make the other 50% with private lessons or with any other thing. Okay. So there it is. You have to somehow make it work financially as an artist. So talking as an artist. Now, going back to talking as an organizer, I really see the value on providing different experiences for attendees. So there are attendees who barely get to social dance. Maybe they would be happy to enter this 1 hour or two. I'm not somebody who would like to do or defend that this should be done all night. I'm just going to put it out there. I do support the idea with certain parameters. Okay, so 2 hours of the social, 1 hour of the social, we have that thing happening. And then before and after that, it's a free for all. Do as you wish. Okay, so I think that as an organizer, this could be a beneficial thing for the attendees. Now, what happens to the money? That's a separate thing. It's a separate conversation that you can have with the community, you can have with the organizers, or you can have with the teachers. Like there are events that are more charity or community focused, so they'll do that thing. There are events that don't have enough money to pay the artists, so they'll go like, hey guys, we're going to do this, and this is going to be part of your payment. Some artists may be okay with that. And there are events, like Gui mentioned in Rio, that social is specifically called the token social.
Token social. Baile de Ficha. Yeah.
Okay. Baile de Ficha. Token social. So if you're going to that social, you know how it works. But also, you're going to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are very happy with that.
And that's exactly my point. You know what you're getting. It's very clear. You know if you buy the thing, you're going to get a dance. That's all.
Yeah. For example, I choose to pay more for a massage whenever I go for a massage because I don't book. If I book and it's a certain time of the day when they're very much booked out, it's cheaper. But because I need the flexibility in my life and I prefer to have the flexibility, I pay more. But I get what I want. I get to have a massage when I want, but I'm going to have to pay more. Okay, so this may not be so relatable to everyone listening or to people who understand the community from a different perspective, such as a student or a social dancer. But looking at the community through the lenses of being in every seat over the last 20 years, I do think there is an opportunity for a conversation because at this point, it's not that is it going to happen. For me, at this point, what I see is that it is going to happen. Now, how we go to that, how we get there is something that I think we can do better. How whatever people complain about the community today, we could have done a better job maybe 5 or 10 years ago to not be in a negative situation today. So if we think about how we can incorporate this in a way that makes sense for both parties, I think it's something that people will not see it as negative as it is right now in the social media, as the conversation is happening this week, which is the week of mid-October. But as well, like this conversation has been part of the community forever. At least once a year, this thing explodes. Yeah. Same topic every year.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. And I think I'm more skeptical than you, Alisson, a little bit about how early this is going to happen. I don't think in the Brazilian Zouk community it's going to happen anytime soon, to be honest. From what I see, mostly.
Maybe not from the social dancers, but I can tell you that for at least I'm going to say close to 15 years, but at least the last 10, 100%, full confidence. For the last 10 years, I've heard of multiple top traveling couples saying, look, guys, I'm going to start charging for social.
Yeah. No.
I'm going to start charging for social. I'm going to put that in my contract.
Yeah, like, I heard it too.
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened.
I mean, it has happened maybe a year or two, but there was a huge backlash.
Yeah.
But, that's why I'm saying, like, we just need to have a better conversation about it instead of doing it and seeming like you're a selfish person who just wants to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think the main issue for me is that when I see some of these conversations happening, I see a lot of shoulds. There's a lot of the shoulds being thrown around. This should be like this because we should dance with this in mind. We should. And one of the most revealing things that I learned when I learned about nonviolent communication and other forms of communication is that the idea of a should is the most complicated there is. In nonviolent communication, they said that the word should is the most violent word in the English language because it implies that something is obvious. It implies that something has to be in a certain way. And if it's not in that way, it's wrong. Coming from the Brazilian culture and in the tango culture as well, I know the ballroom culture has some of these things. And countries like Philippines and Indonesia, that you have people that are paid to social dance. Are you going to say that all these people that are paying to social dance or they are being paid to social dance are not as engaged in the social dancing as those who are not being paid? Can you say that? I don't think we can. And it's impossible to say that because in my experience, we are as engaged in the social dancing as we would be paid or unpaid. I was paid as a taxi dancer for a marathon once. I was gonna dance anyways, but I danced even more with the joy, with the excitement, with the engagement, and I was being paid for it. So the payment didn't alter the nature of my soul when I was engaged in social dancing. You know what I mean? Because what is the issue? When you are hiring someone, when the artist is there who is being paid to teach, like you're saying, Alison, 5 days, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, is dedicated to be at that place. And there is the expectation to social dance. This generates resentment. It generates sometimes resentment that piles up over time. There are places, my people, and you know this if you are as deep in the Brazilian Zouk world as we are. There are places in which the dancing with the teacher is the whole reason why somebody is going to that weekend or to that event. They are not going for the classes. They are going to dance with the teacher. There are people that only come out to social dance when there is a visiting instructor. Again, that person is there to provide the teaching service. Of course, by the nature of our activity, social dancing is what we do. We are teaching people how to social dance. So we social dance to be reference points. We social dance because that's our thing. We like to social dance. The thing is, when people are going just to dance with you, regardless of the class, what is the main activity? The class or the social dance? Clearly, is the social dance. I went to a place once and the organizers sent the feedback forms. When I travel, I have a no lines policy. I don't want people to line up and I don't respect the line. I want to invite people to dance. I want to be a little bit more random because the people who are more shy, they don't get in line, So then we want to invite those who are sitting, who are shy and don't want to bother the artist. So I have a no lines policy and people respect that request that I make in the beginning. But in the feedback form that we received, it was negative because the person came from far away just to dance with me. And because of the no lines policy, they didn't get in line and they ended up not getting a dance. So they paid the tickets, they traveled, they danced the whole night, they took the classes, but they didn't social dance with me. So the overall feedback was negative, And some other places, they hire teachers, but the point is not the class again. The point is to social dance. So they have a line system of some sort. It's either a number or a list or you memorize. Again, what is the main activity? Is it the class or the social dance? So I think that's the conversation that we need to have. What are you hiring people for? You're hiring people to social dance disguised as teaching, And then it's so interesting because when I present this idea to some organizers, you see their minds glitching, because we are so used to the idea that a teacher comes to teach, that considering that you bring someone just to social dance and pay that person just to social dance, so absurd in some people's minds that they cannot even compute. But then I ask, what is the main thing they're coming to do? They say to social dance. So like, okay, so why don't you take the classes away? And the big feature of your weekender is social dancing. You do some sort of like, quote unquote, like a mini marathon, which the feature is the social dance. And the teacher is there available for 4 hours, the same amount of time that they would teach. Teach for 4 hours, social dance for 4 hours. So swap one for the other. I'm pretty sure that person will be there happy, engaged to social dance. I would be, So sorry, I got a little heated up here. But I think in the end, guys, we are being completely hypercritical about the reasons why we go to an event. In Portuguese, we have this thing, put your hand in your consciousness. Yeah. Põe a mão na consciência. Put your hand in your consciousness and ask, why do you go for the weekender? Why do you go for the festival? If you say, I'm going for the festival to learn, I'm going for the festival to dance with my friends, and if God wants, if Buddha allows, I'll dance with one of the teachers. Amazing, good to go. But if you ask the same question and say, oh no, I'm actually going to dance with the teacher, so know that this person is being paid for something else entirely, Again, everything is malleable, everything is complex, like we were saying. We teach social dance, so social dance is our main thing, and we do want to be on the floor showcasing how social dance can look like, can feel like, the energy, 100%. The thing for me is that we are mindful of the expectations. What is the expectation that you are creating for that person over there? Because Alison and I, we heard so many times, people also on social media going hard on the teachers because they're not social dancing. Everybody, they should be social, they should shows up again. They are social dance teachers, they should be on the floor. I agree that it's good for the person to be on the floor, showcasing what he or she is saying in class, demonstrating what they are saying in class live in front of you. But then if you have that as an obligation, it changes completely. You know what I mean? So keep those things in mind, my people. I was a lawyer and I was paid to be in the firm. But then there was an expectation that we'd be outside of the firm, replying to the emails. We needed to put the app of Outlook on the phone. It was a requirement for us to be responding to emails outside of the office. But we were like, no, but I'm being paid to be at the office, but there's this obligation, this expectation. And then if you don't reply the emails outside of working hours, you are not seeing with a good eye sometimes because you're not putting too much effort. So it's kind of similar to us here. We are being paid to teach, but there is this expectation for us to do these other things, So it's very complex, guys. It's very complex. So I really think it's not very healthy if we go into this should be like this should be like that, before having a more ample conversation with all people involved.
And taking into consideration each location situation, each community situation, each event. Some events more about learning, other events are more about social.
Yes.
Okay, so when you go for a learning event, an event that is all about 2-hour classes or 1.5-hour classes or long afternoon classes, all of that, that's the main thing. The social is a place that you're kind of going to practice what you've been working very hard all day.
Yeah.
But then if it's an event that you're just going and it's party, then that's the main thing of the event. But like I said before, I think nowadays we have a lot more artists that are being featured globally. that didn't come through the usual path from being a social dancer to being an assistant to being a local teacher to then being a traveling teacher.
Yes.
They came from social media. They came from being amazing dancers. And they might actually be happier, give better classes, and give even more attention and possibly social dance with a little bit more passion if they're not expected to social dance and they're just getting paid to teach and perform. And then they decide to go to the social because they're craving that social. They go and they dance all night.
Exactly.
But then if you make them come on the Thursday night, the Friday night, the Saturday night, the Sunday night, and be there for 4 hours, every hour of those 4 hours will be with, not that excitement and maybe some resentment. So I think there's a space for a conversation. I think there's a way to accommodate the desires of the attendees, or let's be more clear here, the clients. And also there are ways to have a conversation and please also the artists, the talents, the people who are being hired to come to an event. And that's what we want here. We want to start this conversation to open up this book that a lot of people maybe don't even know exists. Maybe you didn't even know this was a thing in Brazilian Zouk community.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it's not just a thing in the Brazilian Zouk community. It's a thing in any dance community. And the reason why a lot of people actually don't like the dance community or stop social dancing, because there are many things in the dance community that is not going to be how you want it. But with us here, having this open conversation with you guys, hopefully this can give you a perspective and understand a little bit more and make better conscious decisions. And actually, if you're organizing an event, maybe you can change a little bit of how you run things. If you are an attendee, maybe you can think differently on what events do you want to attend, for what purpose you want to attend, and kind of like frame your expectations a little bit better. Organizers can frame their own expectations and requirements a little bit better, and the artists to also understand their obligations and expectations a little bit better. That's all we want here, and that's what we hope that we did today in this episode.
Yeah, I think the main point for me, my people, is that we provide clarity. If we can increase clarity, that will be so beautiful and already make a big difference. Like some contracts, for example, we receive the contract and there is a part of social dancing. We expect the artist to be X amount of hours in these many socials of the event. Beautiful, amazing. We know what is happening. We know what we're going for. There are some events that have, for example, the teacher hour or the instructor hour, the power hour, that participants know that for this hour, they will find all the teachers in the room. And that was agreed upon. And that's all, guys. If we have more agreement and more clarity, it'll be so amazing already, and then we can move to the payment thing later. But with this clarity, oh my God, life can be so much better.
And with that in mind, we thank you once again for being here with us. And we hope that you've enjoyed another episode. And please don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, share. Send this to a friend that maybe don't know ZoukNerds yet. And hopefully we can continue growing and doing this sometimes tough conversations, but other times educational or inspiring, or just sometimes when we go to the moon, all of that we love to do here at ZoukNerds. And we're looking forward to being here with you on the next episode. So thank you once again. Beijos, everybody. Abraços and ciao.
Bye, everybody. Till next time.